always deck.
And so Chris Andersen on your left, blue-black Tezzeret versus Ben Wienburg with Dredge. They're both 2-1. Really need to win this match. Ben Wienburg starts out with Gemstone Mine. Looks like we had a Putrid Imp that was countered by Force of Will, but Ben has the Lion's Eye Diamond, so he can pitch his hand at will if he wants to the Lion's Eye Diamond. He does so right there, putting a Golgari Grave Troll into his graveyard along with a Cabal Therapy, and he's going to dredge big.
So Dread Return, Gristlebrand, Undiscovered Paradise, Icarid, Flamekin Zealot, and a Stinkweed Imp. So he does find a 6 Dredger. Now what he did on his upkeep is he actually on his upkeep sacrificed the Lion's Eye Diamond to get a Dredger into his graveyard. So the reason that you saw Chris Andersen force the Will Putrid Imp is because he wants to make it so that Wienburg could not get a discard outlet. So it forces Wienburg to actually dredge borderline perfectly. You saw the last card that he hit on the dredge was a Stinkweed Imp, so he's actually going to be able to get to go 5 cards deeper into his deck.
He also has an Icarid in the graveyard. He can exile the Putrid Imp to bring that back in his upkeep and then sacrifice it to Cabal Therapy after swinging for 3 to get a look at Chris Andersen's hand and maybe take down some defenses.
Now Andersen has been playing this Blue-Black Tezzeret. He does have 2 top 8s with this. He's going to play the Sword of the Meek and pass the turn back. But, you know, the one thing you look for in this artifact-based deck is, does he have anything like a Relic of Progenitus or a Tormod's Crypt? As you see, Wienburg is going to bring back Icarid and removing that Putrid Imp. He does have 1 Nile Spellbomb in his main deck. He also has 1 Ensnaring Bridge as well. So we'll see what he can cobble together with those, as Wienburg is going to turn over 5 cards, Bridge from Below, Faithless Looting, Icarid, Golgari Thug, and a Narcomoeba.
So Ben Wienburg now has 1 copy of Bridge from Below in his graveyard, so anytime one of his creatures goes to the graveyard, he's going to get a 2/2 zombie token, and he really needs to get a 2nd Bridge from Below here to fuel up for the Dread Return.
Now, the thing Wienburg is considering right now is if he wants to Cabal Therapy, because Icarid's going to die anyway. So if Icarid's going to die, I might as well get some value from it. So he is going to flashback Cabal Therapy, and I'm interested to see, if he's going to target himself and put Golgari Grave Troll into his graveyard so he can dredge 6, or if he's going to target Andersen and try to snipe his hand. And it looks like he is targeting Andersen with this.
That's almost a full house of Planeswalkers there.
You see 2 copies of Tezzeret, 1 Jace the Mind Sculptor, and an Ancient Tomb. So a turn 3 Planeswalker is on the horizon here. Let's see what Andersen draws, because he is taking his time on this draw step.
What is he?
It's a Force of Will, which is actually a pretty good draw right now, as it can actually, since there are no Cabal Therapies in Wienburg's graveyard, he can actually stop, you know,
stop the Dread Return.
Yeah, stop the Dread Return that's in the graveyard.
What's going to happen here is Ben Wienburg is most likely going to exile 1 Icarid to the other in his upkeep, get the Icarid back, and then attack and sacrifice his 3 creatures he has to flash back that Dread Return. He just looked at Chris Andersen's hand, so the 1 draw step that Chris had has given him the Force of Will he needs to counter the Dread Return. The Ancient Tomb, foil version from the Vault Realms. He taps it. He takes 2 damage. He's going to slam down a Planeswalker here.
But
which one?
Yeah, which one is it going to be? They're both very interesting options, because Tezzeret allows Andersen to get a little bit closer to a card like the Ensnaring Bridge or Nile Spellbomb, which are his game breakers.
There you go.
But Jace the Mind Sculptor is Jace the Mind Sculptor. And you see Wienburg is going to take a look at Tezzeret, so we're going to bring it up on the screen for you guys so you can see all that this beautiful Planeswalker does do.
Chris Andersen here decides that Jace the Mind Sculptor is not better than Tezzeret Agent of Bolas. And he immediately activates that +1, looks at the top 5 cards of his library, and he's going to choose an artifact, and it's Baleful Strix. It's a very innocuous artifact to get.
You see the other things that Tez can do, make an artifact a 5/5, so it can be blocking, put on blocking duty to actually protect Tezzeret, or give you one heck of a beater And then the ultimate ability, which is one that actually comes up in this deck quite a bit, is very easy to achieve because it's only -4, and then it's got that huge drain.
Lose X life, where X is twice the number of artifacts you control, and you gain that life. Currently only has the 1 artifact in play, but can certainly pump out a whole bunch more. And we see Ben Wienburg here.
So he only got to mill for 4 because of Golgari Thug, but the 4 were actually pretty good because it was another Bridge from Below and another Narcomoeba. So actually, that was, as far as a Dredge 4 goes,
that's kind of perfect here.
Yeah.
So he's going to sacrifice 2 Narcomoebas and an Ichorid to flash back Dread Return. He's targeting Flamekin Zealot. He's going to get 6 zombie tokens, and then he's going to have the ability to give them all haste and +1/+1 with the Flamekin Zealot when it returns, but we have to believe that Chris Andersen is using his second Force of Will, and there you see it at the edge of your screen. He has cast his second Force of Will on the Dread Return, stopping that. But regardless, that's still a lot of zombies.
Yeah, that's the tough part here for Andersen, is those zombies are in play whether that Dread Return resolves or not. So now he has to beat an army of zombies, 7 2/2s to be exact, and one of them does have the ability to attack. And we'll see if Wienburg wants to go towards Tezzeret or if he wants to go towards Andersen. He wants to go towards Andersen. Part of the reason for that, again, Riki, is that Ancient Tomb, the damage on that certainly is going to add up as well.
So Chris Andersen here facing a lethal army of zombies. He needs to find and engineered explosives. Looks at the top 5. Some lands, Talisman, Dominance, and Jason Mind Sculptor, not an engineered explosives. Chris Andersen scoops him up to the Dredge army of zombies.
No engineered explosives, no ensnaring bridge. Those are the 2 things that would have gotten him out of trouble there. So he looked at a ton of cards there with Tezzeret, Agent of Bolas, but to no avail. So Ben Wienburg is going to win game number 1 here with Dredge against Chris Andersen. And we're going to take a look at Andersen's sideboard first. Again, Chris Andersen, a player with multiple Open Series top 8s, mostly with L's when we dabble in Legacy, but last week he did win in St. Louis with this Blue-Black Tezzeret deck. We see his sideboard here of 2 copies of Damnation, 1 Pithing Needle, 2 Duress, 1 Meekstone, 2 Perish, 1 Trinisphere, 2 Vendilion Click, 1 Grafdigger's Cage, and 3 copies of Lodestone Golem. So when you're playing against Dredge, of course, the first thing you're going to look towards is what kind of graveyard removal does he have. Grafdigger's Cage is certainly a good one here.
Yeah.
I would like to think. 2 Damnations for that situation that we were actually just in would have been quite good if he would have had one of those in his deck at that point. And then the rest of the stuff is kind of hit or miss. You know, Pithing Needle can be okay in certain situations. Good against a card like Cephalid Coliseum, but again, it can also be pretty poor. And then Trinisphere, if he can get it online, is actually really good against Dredge.
Yeah.
But the question again is, can he actually get it online in time?
Trinisphere makes all spells you have to pay 3 mana to cast any spell, and Dredge is a deck that doesn't really like to pay mana to cast its spells.
To do anything.
Sacrifice its creatures as an alternate cost.
Yeah.
I mean, what few spells it does play are very cheap. The most you're going to pay is 3 mana anyway to flash back a Faithless Looting, but that's usually off of a Lion's Eye Diamond activation.
Yeah. So we'll see if Andersen's going to bring in that 1 Trinisphere and maybe hope to drop that on turn 2 via Ancient Tomb or Sidious Traders. As we take a look at Wienburg's sideboard, 3 copies of Street Wraith, an Undiscovered Paradise, 4 Nature's Claim, 1 Chain of Vapor, 1 Angel Despair, 1 Elish Norn, 1 Iona, Shield of Emeria, and 3 copies of Firestorm.
Okay. Certainly the 4 copies of Nature's Claim, good against an artifact deck, especially one that you're expecting to bring in some artifact hate for your graveyard.
Yeah, I can't imagine he doesn't board those in. The thing with Dredge that's always difficult is the sideboarding, because you're this really tight package that you do the same thing every single day and every single time that you play. So, you know, what can you slice and cut from your deck to ensure that your deck is still incredibly consistent? That's hard to answer.
Yeah, and a lot of this sideboard, these one-ofs, Angel of Despair, Elish Norn, Iona, those are for the Dread Return Reanimation package to kind of mix and match depending on the situation you are in.
Yeah.
The Street Race in the sideboard, 3 Street Race, those are pay 2 life to cycle it.
Yeah, so sometimes you see that in sideboards or in main decks with Dredge against opponents that they don't think that they can beat by sideboarding in a card like Nature's Claim or Chain of Vapor or something like that, and they think that they actually have to try to kill them on turn 1. just try to overpower them and beat them with blistering speed instead of trying to play kind of fair or honest. It's just like, all right, pedal to the floor, Street Wraith, you're pretty bad, but you're an extra dredge 4, 5, or 6, so we got to give it a shot.
And you thin your deck out, and the reason it's not something like Gitaxian Probe is because it is a black creature, which is relevant for cards like Icarus.
Yeah. So that's why you see that there. Again, it's kind of this Hail Mary type attempt where, you know, some people do try to have like honest sideboards with like Life from the Loam to actually play normal Magic, but Dredge, again, there are some formats where you're allowed to do that with Dredge, and there's others where it's just, no, you don't attempt to play normal Magic with Dredge, you just try to kill him.
Cedric, this whole deck, the Dredge deck, is a Hail Mary.
Yes.
I mean, you are throwing it straight to the end zone every time.
Yeah. There are no short passes here, nothing in the slot. You're going deep. You're Rex Grossman. You're going deep.
Where is that guy right now?
Exactly where he should be, not in the NFL.
And yet Tim Tebow is back in the NFL.
You better believe it, baby.
I'm really excited about that.
Well, the difference between Tebow and Grossman is that Tebow's actually good.
Yeah.
So, there's that.
At certain things.
Yeah, that's also true.
I was actually saying last week when he got signed by the Patriots, I think Tim Tebow is on a short path to become a coach in the NFL.
That wouldn't surprise me.
Because people talk about his leadership, his motivational skills, and how much passion he has.
Yeah.
And, you know, the physical components, the throwing of the football is not there. So Tim Tebow, coach, could be in the future.
Now, Andersen has the exact thing that he wants, and the reason that he feels that this deck is so good is because he has a turn 1 Chalice of the Void. So Wienburg is going to use his discard step to his advantage, so he is actually just going to draw his card for the turn, discard Golgari Grave Troll, pass the turn back. But now Andersen has a follow-up in the form of Trinisphere. So if we were wondering if he was going to bring in Trinisphere, the answer is yes.
So now, Chalice of the Void is going to counter any spell with a converted mana cost of 1, which includes Cabal Therapy. That breakthrough that you see is usually cast with X equals 0. The Chain of Vapor that we see in Ben Weinberg's hand.
But he can't even cast those because of Trinisphere,
no?
So he doesn't even have any lands. So here's a question. When there's a Trinisphere and a Chalice on 1 in play, so 1 mana spell, Chain of Vapor, for example, you actually have to pay 3 for it. So
yes,
you'd have to pay 2 colorless and 1 blue. So how does Chalice of the Void look at that?
It's still going to counter it.
Okay.
The converted mana cost is whatever is in the top right-hand corner.
Okay.
Including any X's you pay.
Okay.
But no matter what additional costs you're paying, which includes Trinisphere, Sphere Resistance, Thalia, that does not count for converted mana cost.
Got it. Got it.
So no matter what you do, even if you pay 3 mana for a Chain of Vapor here, it's going to get countered by the Chalice of the Void.
All right. So Andersen has a Baleful Strix to kind of brick that Narc Amoeba. And now he's just kind of coasting along a little bit. You know,
he's got a lot of time.
Yeah, time is on his side right now. Now, depending on how Wienburg is able to dredge, because he is going to dredge 6 here, he's going to have to pick up that Golgari Grave Troll. You know, Wienburg, the thing here is, as you said, they want to play free spells. They don't play an honest game of Magic, but he doesn't have any lands. So all it is going to be is trying to dredge Icarids, Bridge from Belows, and Narc Amoebas. That's it.
Yeah, we see the Nature's Claim also was sideboarded in.
Yeah, unsurprisingly.
Yeah, unsurprisingly, but is a blank against Chalice of the Void here.
Andersen going to cast Transmute Artifacts. He's going to sacrifice Baleful Strix. And let's see what he's going to end up searching up. As you see, Wienburg takes a look at Transmute Artifact. Yeah, we can bring it up for you. We can bring it up on the screen. But truth be told, Riki, there's a lot of text on Transmute Artifact.
If Ben Weinberg has to read what that card says, I certainly have to read what that card says. And even if we pull it up, it's going to lie to us. This is a very old card.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a look at the Oracle text here if I can. We've got it on your screen. Let's see if you can figure out what it actually does based on this arcane text.
So this says, search through your library for one artifact and immediately place it into play. Also, choose the artifact in play that you control and place it in its owner's graveyard. If the new artifact has a casting cost greater than that of the discarded one, you must pay the difference, or Transmute Artifact fails and both artifacts are discarded. Shuffle your library after playing this card. Arcane text is, that's a word you could use to describe what that is. That is the oldest school of text I've ever seen. So what this basically is a tinker, or you have to pay the difference in mana.
Yes, essentially. The Oracle text is not much clearer, but you're correct. You're getting an artifact, If it is more expensive than the one you sacrifice, you have to pay the difference in colorless mana.
But if it is less expensive, you do not. So you saw Andersen use Transmute Artifact, sacrificing Baleful Strix to go get a Nile Spellbomb. So as a result, 2 is still more than 1, even today, on Sunday, on Father's Day. So he did not have to pay the difference, because there's no difference for him to pay.
And that's actually key that he used the Transmute Artifact to get the Nihil Spellbomb, because he's got the Chalice of the Void on 1, so he would not have been able to cast Spellbomb.
The other thing that
Andersen knows this deck very well.
The other thing that is kind of interesting as well too is the one of among those lands that Andersen does have in play. One of them is Academy Ruins. So while he did sacrifice that Baleful Strix, he can get it back. He can also get back the Nile Spellbomb at some point as well. So even though he had to get rid of that Baleful Strix, and I'm sure that was certainly annoying, he is certainly still doing okay. As here comes the Narcomoeba. You see Ben dredges 6 cards, another Bridge from Below, 2 of them actually, and a Cabal Therapy down there as well. And now you see Andersen is actually going to activate that, that Academy Ruins and put Baleful Strix back on top and draw that for the turn.
And this is purely to just get a blocker on the field.
Yeah, might as well
trade with that Narcomoeba.
Might as well cantrip while you're at it.
Chris Andersen has a 12 life against a lone Narcomoeba that's comfortable, but you don't really want to take any more damage than you need to.
Yeah.
Because if Icarids start hitting, then that could be trouble.
You see the patience here by Andersen about when he wants to try to use that Nile Spellbomb. At any point, he could have busted this thing. You know, you can make an argument for last turn, the previous turn, what have you, but it looks like he's letting, or attempting to let Wienburg build his own death here. He's going to reveal 2 Narcomoebas. So now, with Narcomoeba, when you do dredge it, they both go on the stack.
It's a triggered ability, yeah.
Correct.
They are still in the graveyard at this point with the triggered ability on the stack, and when the triggered ability resolves, you can put them into the play or onto the battlefield. So in response to those triggers, Nihil Spellbomb, sacrifice, exile your graveyard, triggered abilities do nothing because those Narcomoebas are no longer in the graveyard. They've been exiled.
So kiss Wienburg's graveyard goodbye. He's going to have to restart now with Golgari Grave Troll, which he does discard for his turn. Andersen is going to draw his card for the turn, and let's see what he can find, because at this point, all Andersen's looking for is a way to actually win the game.
Yeah, and that could be in the form of a Tezzeret, most likely. Just make some of these artifacts 5/5 and start smashing.
And that's really all that it's going to take for him to be able to get back into this one.
Would love to see a 5/5 Chalice of the Void.
Give him the beats?
In. Yeah.
Here's a Talisman. Or excuse me, a Talisman. I always call them Talisman, I don't know, but a Talisman of Dominance.
A Tasmanian of Dominance?
Yes, a Tasmanian of
Perhaps?
Dominance. Correct. You know, some of our viewers are too young to even know what you've just done. Which is
don't
sad.
say that to
Which
me.
is sad, I'm sorry.
Go look it up. Go look up blah,
Yeah,
blah,
go look
blah,
up blah, blah, blah. Google that.
Or look up Tasmanian Devil Looney Tunes. Kids.
So
And
a Dredge 6.
restarting the graveyard engine is Ben Wienburg. Gets back a Golgari Grave Troll and passes the turn and discards Golgari Grave Troll. This is what he's been doing the entire game, really.
He dredges that turn. He dredges 2 Gemstone Mines, a Cephalo Coliseum, a Cabal Therapy, an Icarid, and a Bridge from Below. Again, Andersen is just looking for any way to win the game. If it is a Jace, or if it's a Tezzeret, whichever Planeswalker he finds is going to win him the game. He just needs to find it already. That's all.
Certainly. And meanwhile, with not much else to do, he suits up the Baleful Strix with Sword of the Meek.
Yes, so now it is a 2/3 Baleful Strix. That Sword of the Meek gives +1/+2. So Andersen draws a City of Traders for the turn, and you know he's just playing draw go here, which is you know kind of funny to watch because he's not really doing anything. But we see an attack here from Wienburg.
Very interesting. So Ben Wienburg discarded the Putrid Imp instead of a Dredger so that he would have a black creature in his graveyard. Now wait a minute, where...
Is there a problem,
What
Judge, sir?
What happened to that Icarid right there?
So that Icarid got blocked by a 2/3 Death Touch Baleful Strix. It should be in his graveyard.
Yeah. think we might need to pause this match here real quick and make sure that that Icarid goes to the correct zone.
Yeah, I don't know if he put it in his hand on accident or something, but it should be in the
I
graveyard.
believe it's in the exile zone under those bridge from belows right there.
Yeah, I don't think anything would cause that to happen.
Yeah, I'm taking a look at the board here. I don't see anything that currently would exile stuff. So we're gonna get the spotter
There we
pause the
go.
action. Yes, there it is.
So now we're all good. You see Andersen does activate the Academy Runes, is going to put the Baleful Strix back on top of his deck, and now he's going to cast it. Again, he's just looking for any way to win the game, and he hasn't been able to find one yet. So, cantrip.
Surprisingly, Ben Wienburg is clawing his way to victory here. Off of that Icarid dying, he got 2 zombie tokens.
Oh, well, look who finally found a way to try to win. Chris Andersen drew a Jace the Mind Sculptor.
Jace the Mind Sculptor. Bounce something. Bounce a 2/2 token, most likely. Representing that damage there. And then he's going to suit up the Baleful Strix again. Now he can block the other zombie, take one from Narcomoeba, and have a position here to win the game.
And you know, Wienburg can return his Icarid back, removing that Stinkweed Imp and then dredging the Grave Troll. You saw him count his library, how many cards left. But the one thing that's important here, Riki, is I'm pretty sure he's out of Bridge from Below. As you see a Dredge 6 here of a Stinkweed Imp, a Faithful Suiting, 2 copies of Lion's Eye Diamond, a Gemstone Mine, and a Cabal Therapy. So I'm pretty sure all 4 Bridge from Belows are gone now, so Andersen does not have to worry about annoying zombies anymore.
Nope. And that's it. Cannot represent enough damage without those Bridge from Belows anymore. And that was actually a very surprising game to see how long Ben Wienburg was able to fight it out. He was under a Chalice lock, Chalice of the Void on 1, shutting out most of his relevant spells, and then following out the Trinisphere, just in case, making it so everything you have to pay 3 for.
Yeah.
And the Dredge deck really does not have the capability of doing that, sans Lion's Eye Diamond.
So we're even up here between Andersen and Wienburg. If you guys are just joining us, Cedric Phillips, Riki Ayashi, we are here in the booth. SCGCOL Games Open Series has made its way to Columbus, Ohio. We are at the Orton's Game Fair. Day 4 of this 4-day convention. We're probably going to be the last ones out of here, honestly.
We are going to be here till at least midnight, I feel like.
Yeah, I think we might be the last group of all of the stores and spectators and everybody else that has come to this convention. I think the Open Series will be the last one to depart from the Greater Convention Center here in Columbus. But we do appreciate you guys joining us today on Sunday on Father's Day. Make sure you don't forget to call. All right, I forgot to call my mother on Mother's Day earlier this year because I was doing a show.
Oh, yeah.
And I felt terrible. So I made sure to give my dad a call while we were on our break. Don't forget, you can thank me for your reminder. My director here to my right, Jesse, actually just wrote down on a sheet of paper, called Dad in caps with an underline. So hey, don't forget to call your dad and wish him happy Father's Day. You can also join us on Twitter, join in the conversation at SCG Live, hashtag SCGCOL. Have some fun with us today on Father's Day.
Now, the interesting thing about Father's Day, Paulo Vitor Damadurosa tweeted earlier, he was seeing all the Facebook posts and the Twitter posts about Father's Day, and then he got real worried, like, oh no, how could I forget Father's Day? I have to call my dad. And then he realized it's not Father's Day, because he lives in Brazil. And apparently in Brazil, they do not have the same Father's Day as we do in the United States.
Oh.
And then I saw a follow-up tweet from Kim Warren. She's a level 3 judge from the United Kingdom.
I know Kim.
Says that Father's Day is different over there as well.
I did not know that. All right.
So lots of Father's Days around the world. So this is only relevant for United States and maybe Canadian viewers.
Okay.
I really don't know. I'm gonna have to look into the history of Father's Day and see what day it actually falls on in various countries.
So in theory, if I were to miss a Father's Day, I could say that I didn't miss it. I was just going to call you on a different Father's Day.
Sure.
I can have an out to my stupidity. That's perfect. That's perfect.
You could just,
I'm glad.
Sometime in September, I don't know, but let's just say in September, you could be like, hey Dad, happy Brazilian Father's Day.
Absolutely. I know I forgot the first one, but I didn't actually forget. I just wanted to wish it to you this time. Perfect.
It's really too bad it doesn't work the same way with birthdays or anniversaries, because I'm prone to forgetting those things as well.
Well, if I didn't have Facebook, I wouldn't know anyone's birthday, so.
Facebook.
Thank God for that.
No, don't thank God.
I couldn't remember her birthday without Facebook.
I shut off. I actually, a couple of weeks before my birthday, I take it down. I remove the date. I shut down my wall. I do
really?
I do not want. It's like hundreds sometimes, right? For
Yeah.
some people, hundreds of just happy birthday.
You got to make a game out of it. That's what I did last year. I was at Grand Prix. My birthday last year was at Grand Prix Seattle Tacoma, and so everyone was wishing me happy birthday on that Friday before the tournament. And so one of my friends in Seattle, his name's Kyle Bodie, on his birthday, he responds to all the happy birthdays with with a moment he remembers the person by. So I did that last year. My most fond memory of you is blank. It's a fun little game to play. You know, it gives you all those birthday spam messages. You actually get to interact with those people. So I did that last year, and I actually had a lot of fun with that. I was talking to some people from high school I haven't talked to in like 5 years. My most fond memory of you is when you slammed your face into the locker. All that stuff. It's actually pretty awesome. So we're going to see a careful study here from Wienburg. He's going to lead off game 3 with the City of Brass, going to discard a Golgari Grave Troll and a Stinkweed Imp. So I want to see what Andersen has here because he's on the draw and he just drew a Force of Will.
Missed his opportunity there. We are going to see him off of City of Traders cast the Chalice of the Void for 1, but he missed a chance to stop the careful study. And Ben Wienburg is going to start his engine off with a Dredge for 6 with Golgari Grave Troll.
Dredge 6 is going to net 2 Stinkweed Imps, a Bridge from Below, a Golgari Thug, a Gemstone Mine, and a Careful Study. And now he's going to hard cast a Narcomoeba off of Undiscovered Paradise and City of Brass and pass the turn back. If you're Andersen, you're probably pretty happy about this. Also, you have Force of Will for protection right now. So the only troubling thing here is that he has the City of Traders as his first land, so he's going to have to let that go.
That's true, and he draws another Chalice of the Void here. Think about maybe chalicing for 0 to cut off the Lion's Eye.
Well, I can't imagine that Ben's going to draw another card. Here's a Demir Signet, and there goes Andersen. Does he want to play this land here? All right, bye-bye City of Traders.
City of Traders goes away.
He's going to want to play Engineering Explosives for 0, so he wants to hedge against zombies. Okay. And actually he wants to hedge against zombies and be able to activate the Engineering Explosives off the Polluted Delta, filtering the mana into a Demir Signet. So, here comes the Dredge. Stinkweed Imp. Let's see 5 cards, Mr. Wienburg. Bridge from Below number 2. City of Brass.
3.
Cephalid Coliseum, Bridge Below number 3, and a Faithless Looting.
But he has no sacrifice effects in his graveyard. No Cabal Therapies or Dread Returns.
What? City of Brass going to add some damage, and another Narcomoeba.
Hard casts another Narcomoeba. So he just needs to find a way to kill his own Narcomoebas, and he can get an instant zombie army. But Chris Andersen has Engineered Explosives.
Yes, he does. So, the other thing that Andersen has in his hand right now is a Transmute Artifact. And he can Transmute Artifact for a Nile Spellbomb. He's very, very close to being able to do that right now. So, even though he had to give away his City of Traders, he still looks to be doing okay given the circumstances.
So what he can do here is play his land, tap it and the Demir Signet, and then the Underground Sea, get blue, blue, black, Transmute Artifact, something, into Nihil Spellbomb, sacrifice it. You can even cantrip off of it with the black, and get rid of this graveyard immediately.
And then he just has to be able to beat 2 Narcomoebas. That shouldn't be too tough. At least I'd like to think so.
But to make that play, he does either need to sacrifice the Demir Signet to Transmute Artifact, or pay an extra, because Nihil Spellbomb costs 1. His other artifacts are X. Or X is 0 when on the battlefield.
Alright, so it looks like
Oracle text of
on which one of his cards? That's the question. Yeah. And it looks like he's looking at Bridge from Below is kind of this interesting card where if you're not familiar with Bridge from Below, it's this very strange card in that it has no effect when it's in play. It only has an effect in the graveyard, and then stacking the card and how it works is actually up to the controller of Bridge from Below with how the effects stack. Now, of course, there are active player, non-active player triggers and all that stuff, but it's basically up to the player who has Bridge.
We're being told by the spotter that the card, the Oracle text they were asking about is Grafdigger's Cage. So Chris Andersen wanting to know if he transmute artifacts for Grafdigger's Cage, is that going to shut off Bridge from Below? And it is not. It is, those creatures are coming from the triggered ability. They're not coming from the graveyard. He's not casting a spell from the graveyard. Grafdigger's Cage. Creatures can't enter the battlefield from graveyards or libraries. Those creatures are coming from the void, essentially, from the triggered ability.
They're coming from a Bridge from Below, but that's not from the graveyard.
And you are not casting anything either.
So I want to see what he's going to do this turn. This is really interesting to me.
It's got to be the Nihil Spellbomb play, right?
So he's going to sacrifice Chalice.
So he forgoes the ability to cantrip off the Spellbomb by doing this, by sacrificing the X card.
Alright, he's going to get the Spellbomb. So now what he's doing is he's opened up a window for Wienburg, and he's gonna clear his graveyard, but he's opened up a window for Wienburg to actually find like a Careful Study, a Breakthrough, a Faithless Looting, whatever, and cast a 1-mana spell for. He's got one turn.
Yeah.
To cast a 1-mana spell.
What do you think about that? Using the Chalice of the Void instead of, say, the Dimir Signet?
I actually prefer the Explosives, and the reason I prefer the Explosives is because 3 Bridge from Belows are gone.
Yeah, once you get rid of those, that's the whole reason you had the Engineered Explosives in the first place.
Yes. And so what purpose is Engineered Explosives going to serve now is the question. You see Wienburg's going to cast a Putrid Imp, so he's going to get 1/1 drop in, and now it looks like he's going to cast. Okay, so he's going to discard 2. So now he's actually going to have, and he's going to cast Careful Study. So now he has the opportunity to dredge 11 cards. Andersen might get himself in some serious trouble here.
So we'll see if that costs Chris Andersen, sacrificing his Chalice of the Void with 1 counter on it. Ben Wienburg has come out and cast 2 1 casting cost spells now in that window.
So here's a Bridge from Below among some Dredgers and an Ichorid down there to go along with 2 Golgari Grave Trolls, a Golgari Thug, and a Gemstone Mine. So here comes 6 more. Faithless Looting, Nature's Claim.
Find a Dread Return.
City of Grass.
Narcomoeba.
A Narcomoeba, a Breakthrough, and a Golgari Thug. So no Dread Return and his last Bridge from Below. So it looks like Andersen has dodged a bit of a bullet here. No Cabal Therapies either.
Yeah, so we've gone very deep here in Ben Wienburg's deck and not seen any sacrifice effects, have we?
Yeah, none right now. Wienburg going to discard some more cards. He's going to get in for 2 with those Narcomoebas. And as strange as it may sound, as you see, Andersen's going to put back on top his Nihil Spellbomb. He's going to cast that, and he's going to remove the graveyard again. So maybe that's the reason they did it this way, is because he wanted Chalice out of the way for being able to move the graveyard twice.
Yeah. So he was thinking ahead to his next sequence of plays. He activated Academy Ruins during his upkeep, put Nihil Spellbomb on top of his library, drew it for his turn, played Urborg, Tomb of Yawgmoth, and then cast Nihil Spellbomb, which he would not have been able to do had he left Chalice of the Void on the battlefield. So Chris Andersen 1 step ahead there.
1, 2, 3.
But he did leave Ben Wienburg a small window open, and he did dodge one there on those 2 big dredges.
I mean, this game is by no means is this game over either. As you see, Wienburg discards a Golgari Grave Troll, dredges 6, discards it again to give Putrid Imp Threshold. So now that's going to be an attack for 5 as opposed to 4, and there's a Cabal Therapy that Wienburg can cast, and if he doesn't want to cast it on himself or if he wants to target Andersen is the question.
So Putrid Imp, normally a 1/1, has the activated ability discard a card to give it flying, which is what it's usually used in Dredge for, but when it reaches Threshold, it gets +1/+1. And I believe can't block anymore. Maybe it can't block naturally, but he's not blocking no matter what. It's a 2/2 now, so attacking for 5 is Ben Wienburg.
So now the one thing here for Andersen, he's going to have a little bit of difficulty because he has no way to really stop these creatures that are on the board right now. So he really needs to kind of start catching back up. Now, one thing that he can do here, Ricky, is he can actually sacrifice an Engineered Explosives for 0 and get it back with Academy Ruins.
Cast it for 2.
But that takes some time.
He's going to need a 5th land here because he's going to need to tap 2 to sacrifice Engineered Explosives. Then he's going to want 3 more mana, so 5 mana total, in order to use Academy Ruins to get it back on the same turn that he sacrifices the Explosives.
And the thing is if he sets Explosives for 2, it's going to blow up his own Dimir Signet.
Sure.
And if he chooses to play the Talisman of Dominance that's in his hand, It's going to blow that up as well. So he's in a pretty difficult situation right now where, you know, the one card that I think he really wants to find is a ensnaring bridge and try to get his hand empty, but I don't even know if he can do that. So I think he's in some trouble, and he's underneath some pressure here of 2 from the Imp and 3 from the Amoebas. So him being at 11, we're looking at a 3-turn clock right now that could improve for Wienburg depending on how his dredges go.
Yeah, Ben Wienburg still has the ability to dredge that Golgari Grave Troll if he finds something like an Icarid. So Chris Andersen's beginning to tap his mana. It looks like he's going to go with Talisman of Dominance. But where does that get him? He really needed that mana source to be a land so that he could sacrifice the Engineer Explosives for 0 and then put it back on top of his library. This way he can sacrifice it, then on his upkeep he can put it back, but then he does not have enough mana to cast it for Sunburst 2 and blow it up on the same turn next turn to take care of the army of Narcomoebas, 3 of them in total.
So now you're going to see another attack here for 6, or excuse me, for 5. It's going to put Andersen down to 6. The Dredge 6 for Wienburg was a Cabal Therapy, a Gristlebrand, an Angel of Despair, a Lion's Eye Diamond, a Undiscovered Paradise, and a Gemstone Mine. So again, Andersen is having some real difficulty because the math doesn't line up in his favor to be able to blow this Engineer Explosives, get it back, set it for 2, and be able to blow it up, because he has to actually pay 2 mana to blow it up right now. That's the problem.
He has to blow it up this turn in Ben's end step, then he has to put it back in his upkeep, cast it for Sunburst 2, and then that's it for his next turn. He cannot sacrifice it, so he's going to take another 5, go down to 1, then he can sacrifice it, but it doesn't get rid of the Putrid Imp.
Yes.
So he really can't go down that line.
But oh no, this is interesting.
Okay, so apparently we're still in Wienburg's main phase.
It looks like
main phase.
Wienburg
He's pulling out a
is
Cabal
reaching.
Therapy.
And if you're Andersen, you got to be absolutely thrilled about this.
Is he really going to shorten? I mean, it's... So Ben can still deal 4. If Chris goes down that line, he goes to 2 next turn. The Putrid Imp is still lethal, but I don't know. Every single point of life could matter here. What did he want to get rid of with Cabal Therapy that matters more than that 1 point of damage?
He named Tezzeret.
So Chris Andersen sacrifices the Engineered Explosives for no effect. He's organizing his mana to get it correct in order to be able to put the explosives back on top of his library. He wants to use that Talisman for colorless. Filter it through the Dimir Signet. Does not want to take any pain here, no matter what.
This is really interesting because you look at his deck list and the things that he can draw to get himself out of this. Again, a card like Damnation does a fantastic job of getting him out of this. He does have the Sword of the Meek Thopter Foundry combo, but a card just Thopter Foundry is actually quite good right now. He's going to draw a card.
To draw naturally.
He draws a Force of Will, which is about the worst card he could draw right now.
What was he hoping for there? Did he board in those Damnations? Very tense end of this match here, end of game 3. Chris Andersen with blue, black, Tezzeret, Ben Wienburg with Dredge. It's going to end here
1, 2,
one
3,
way or another.
4, 5, 6, Narcomoeba, Dread Return, Cabal Therapy, City of Brass, Golgari Grave Troll, and a Gemstone Mine. So the 4th Narcomoeba shows up to the party, and now again Wienburg has all the decisions, and the bad thing here for Andersen is that he hit a Dread Return off of that Dredge 6, so now he can Dread Return back either Gristlebrand or Angel Despair if he sees fit. But most importantly, Andersen's at 2.
Andersen's at 2 life. He elected not to go the path of Engineered Explosives on top of his library. Went to his natural draw step, drew a blank in Force of Will. Now he's got another draw step to find an answer, and It has to be damnation, right? What other answer could he possibly be looking for? Right there?
I was gonna say that his best draw right now is Ensnaring Bridge, but because he found Dread Return, it's not even that now. Because the Dread Return can return the Angel of Despair, so the only thing that I think the only way that Andersen gets out of this is some sort of blunder here by Wienburg. I think that Wienburg has cut every angle because he hit Dread Return off of a dredge.
Chris Andersen draws his card. It's a Tezzeret, Agent of Bolas. Gonna think about it. We don't think that's gonna do anything here.
Yep.
And he puts his hand down. That's it. Chris Andersen loses to Ben Wienburg. Ben Wienburg taking it down with dredge, 2-1. Now I think it was relevant there that Chris Andersen was at 2 life.
Yes.
Ben Wienburg chose to sacrifice a Narcomoeba to Cabal Therapy, took